The lesson.
Oh, yeah.
DJ Reflux.
How you doing, man?
Thanks
Good.
heaps for coming through, bro.
Oh, man. Thank you for having me, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah, man. I think last time I would have seen you would have been at a gig probably like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it would have been like 4 or 5 or something. Probably always gig at the Gov, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I reckon something like that.
So I guess, I mean, what's been happening in the meantime? I know, congratulations, you got, 2 little ones.
Yeah, got another little baby. Yeah, not much, man, to be honest. Since kind of exiting, kind of the scene as such, I've just been keeping to myself pretty much. Just family life, man. Yeah.
Now, man, you were a pretty big influence on my DJing when I was coming up. I think I remember it was the DJ Green Lantern. There was a DJ Green Lantern
St.
gig.
Paul's?
Yeah. So that was at St. Paul's, and that was when he was at Eminem's DJ.
Yeah, yep.
And I just remember, like, I'd
Man,
heard your name.
That's going back.
Yeah, man.
That's going back.
Yeah.
That's stretching my memory there. Yeah, radio. It was downstairs or something. Was it?
It was the first time I'd been in the venue, but
Yeah,
all I
right.
remember is like it was like, oh wow, Reflux is on the decks. You were actually on before me,
Yeah.
which now that I know more about how set time rollouts work, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I actually remember watching you. This was the days of vinyl still.
Yeah,
no
yeah.
Serato, and
Yeah.
I just remember watching how you would go from left turntable to right turntable and pull out doubles, and you'd use both hands, simultaneously.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was just sort of scratching. I had one strong side.
Yeah, one strong side, yeah.
And that fully made me be like, oh, okay.
It's a good thing the DMCs kind of teach you, I guess, is like, I remember Kim Zen was my big influence on the two-handed stuff. You know what I mean? Like, when you see that dude juggle, it would be like he's fluent in both hands and stuff. And you realise, you've got to get good with both hands if you're going to. And all it was back in the day for me was DMCs and ITF. That's all I wanted to do. And all I wanted to win was those, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least be seen as competent, you know what I mean? The desire there was to win, but I didn't need to, own it all. You know what I mean? I just wanted to be able to go out there, do my thing. Because I kind of learned after a while as well that those competitions were always fraught with a bit of, a give and take. You might win some, you might lose some. So that type of thing,
So I guess, that was the first time I'd seen you perform.
Yeah, right.
But, you'd been doing your thing for years before that.
Yeah.
So I guess take us back to when you first got into DJing, how you got introduced to it, some of your influences, and then how that gradually, snowballed.
I mean, how I first got into it would have been Madcap, really. Madcap and Next. Pretty much in terms of DJing myself, all I was doing was sitting at home, really. You know what I mean? I was unemployed. Living with my parents. Had 2 decks, and I was just buying every bit of money I had. I just went to Central Station, and I'd just be buying records and buying records and buying records.
And Madcap was working at
Madcap
Central
was
Station
working there. Yeah, it was Nigel and Madcap working there.
So what year?
This would have been 98.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, 98, 99. 98, I think, was pretty much when I started buying up heaps. And Madcap just, because I was in there all the time. Like, I was in his face all the time, and I'd hand him mixtapes. And I'd be like, give him a couple mixtapes. And then one time he rang me back or whatever and said, hey, do you want to come in and play on 93.7, which was degrees, 93.7 degrees in the shade. So it was Cura Mystics and Madcap and Jane, I think, was doing the show. And I was like, oh, because we used to listen to that show religiously.
Yeah.
That was the show, man. They were the shit. So, they invited me to come in and spin some records, and I'm like, far out, man. Blew my head, you know what I mean? I thought I was the luckiest dude ever. And so I went in there and, spun a little, half hour or something in there. And I remember meeting some of the dudes and, meeting Kuro and stuff. And I had been kind of going around to a few of the gigs and follow them around a little bit as well, and kind of getting my name in their face as such. And I wasn't too long before Madcap. I think it was first gig I actually played out was Pumpkinhead.
Oh wow!
It was Pumpkinhead upstairs at where was it now? I can't even remember now. When he first came over, and it was the first time I jumped up on decks and actually got to spin some records in a club situation as such. I was nervous as hell, man, but I really enjoyed it. That was pretty much my first foray into that, and it wasn't too long after that. Madcap kind of threw me the gig in terms of, hey, do you want to come and spin on radio for good type of thing? We kind of, some people are moving on from the radio and changing the guard up and stuff. Next was, I think, moving and stuff like that. So, do you want to come in and spin records? And I was like, hell yeah, I'll take that gig. And then I did community radio then for, years and years and years after that. So I was with Madcap and that first, and then we kind of moved to Fresh, and then, it was all over the place.
Because after that, then it became the premium blend.
Yeah. So it was 93.7 degrees in the shade or whatever with Madcap, and then, they moved to Fresh as such. And then I ended up doing, a show with Kirk and Headlock. Eventually went back to 3D basically. So after the Fresh FM thing kind of died off.
So there was a transition from 3D to Fresh and then back to 3D.
Yeah, for myself at least. Yeah, because Madcap's show basically wound up and someone else took over that kind of time slot. So
yeah, wow. Now tell us, I guess, about as someone that had the hand in both of those shows. The show with Madcap was just a little bit before my time. I got to Adelaide in '98, and I didn't sort of catch on to locally what was going on till about 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
So by the time I caught on, it was the premium blend.
Yeah.
And we used to stay up, man, and listen to that shit.
Yeah.
And laugh our asses off because
it wasn't organised, man. It wasn't organised. We tried our best to bring, we did our best with the music. We really did. We tried to bring the freshest stuff we could, you know what I mean? And we had our hand on the pulse with all the records as well. So when things were dropping, we would try to litter it with the good shit as well as new stuff and it's a bit of local as well, you know what I mean? Because local wasn't huge, you know what I mean? It was predominantly US stuff. So, you know what I mean? But our playlists were always big, but as you could tell, the organisation of the show was a bit haphazard at best.
Well, we used to tune in a lot, not only for the beats, because the beats were always hot, but for the banter,
the laughs.
Dude, to us, it sounded like you guys was just drunk in a studio.
We pretty much were
running them up.
Yeah.
There was no format.
Yeah.
I think do you guys even prepare your playlist beforehand?
No, I mean, back then, even in club gigs and stuff like that, which I find really weird. I see these DJs out there now, even, 5-6 years ago, even before that, having exactly curated sets, club set. I'm going to a set and I'm playing this after this, after this, after this, exactly how that. I never did that. When I played a club set, I would just be freestyling it. And there's my creative records. I select them before and hit the decks, and I'd just play what I felt at the time. And so some mixes sucked and some mixes were dope, and you try to remember the dope ones as such, and you kind of know where you're going. Obviously, you're not clueless, and you know what records are going to work, but it's kind of you just follow your tail to you just go in there and just freestyle it. It's kind of like the way I was brought up, I guess, into the scene, and the way Kim played as well. I played a lot of sets with Kim and a lot of the kind of touring, lead up, support DJ slots. We did a lot of those and stuff like that. So a lot of shows like that. So kind of always just played how I felt at the time.
So what was the biggest difference for you in terms of the show with Madcap then when it became premium blend?
a bit hard to say. It's a bit blurry, to be honest. Once again, in my head, exactly that transition. Madcap was pretty organised. I've got to admit, he was pretty organised, and he was control of the realm. You know what I mean? It was kind of his show, and I'd be DJing, and there's some other, kind of banter going on and things like that. You know what I mean? And so he was on the mic most of the time, and he'd organised guest spots or anything like that. It was pretty much his show. And then when we went to the Premium Blend, it was a little bit more of a collaborative thing. You know what I mean? So, Kirk and Hetty and things like that, doing things, it was a little bit of a different beast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that started to be more of the Aussie scene as well. So then it started to because obviously it was a different kind of connections as well, with After Hours and everything like that, and Kirk being part of Pulling Strings and very much in touch with, the Aussie scene. Whenever anyone came through to do a show, we'd get him into, get him into freestyle and whatever else. And if no one was in town at that weekend, we'd just get local cats come in and fill the spots up. And, then it started to become more of a, I guess influencing what we heard on the radio shows from OS, you know what I mean? Stretch and Babito and things like that. You'd hear these dudes coming in, and so we wanted to have a little bit more of that kind of feel. Yeah. I don't think it was intentional. We're not going to go out and do a show like them. We just did the show as such, you know what I mean? And we'd all just bring in new records that we'd got that week or stuff like that, and we'd all, compete over playing them. And it's fun times, man.
And really I remember like the raps, when we have ciphers now, they're very organized. Yeah. Dudes are like, they're sharp, they're ready to go. Yeah, man, it's, almost flawless, if not flawless. Yeah. But back then when I used to tune in, it didn't sound like that at all. Like first of all, now it's written. Yeah. Whereas in back then, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it definitely sounded like it was just. Nah, man, no, it wasn't written. Yeah, it was just all off the head.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever heard anything, you can do a quick little Google search, you'll find some stuff. And it was pretty wrong. We got booted off air a few times as well.
For real?
Yeah, just from swearing too much on air, and it got pretty wrong in spots as well. So, 3D would go, you get a ban for a week. And we'd have to just play a CD the next week or something. It happened a few times, you know what I mean, where things got to be ruthless, or it was beer in the studio or something like that, because it literally was. We'd be drinking in there and stuff like that. Stuff you just can't do nowadays, man. You just can't do that, you know what I mean? And we got away with it. It was kind of cool, definitely led to a bit of a, it was a thing, Yeah. We had a good listenership though as well. It was good.
Yeah, man. I mean, we used to all tune in. I remember seeing photos and like the studio was all bombed up.
Oh yeah, totally.
It was everywhere.
Down the basement. 3D radio used to be out on North Adelaide somewhere. I can't remember, the Nelson Street or something. Stepney. It was in the basement of this house, and like the sound padding on the walls was just this kind of hessian cloth, and it was just bombed. I mean, every inch of it bombed, and every week it got bombed more and more and more. And the roof, you name it, the whole lot got done. Yeah.
So that transition from it being Madcap show to Premium Blend would have been around early 2000s?
Thinking so.
And then
it would have been around 2000, I think.
And then around what time? Because I
99
noticed,
even.
Yeah. So.
Oh no, 2000. Yeah, around there. Yep.
And then so at what stage? Because I remember when in the peak of it all for me, from what I remember, is like you guys was always in there. And then after a while, I think maybe when the funk was, it started popping off a bit more and there was a bit more tours or whatever happening, then it was more just Kirk in there.
Yeah. Well, it started to become a bit of a, it's a long thing to keep going. You know what I mean? And the vibe kind of got died between me and Hetty as well. And every week coming in with that kind of same, how can I say, you would understand this, doing a radio show every week for years. It gets tiring, you know what I mean? And so, it'd be every Thursday would be, I can't be effed, I'm not doing it this week. And, Kirk was the soldier, man. He would go in there and he would do his thing. That was his baby, you know what I mean? And props to Kirk for that, you know what I mean? When, we couldn't be stuffed, he would always hold that mantle and go in and do that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my first radio spin from memory was on that show.
Yeah.
But it would have been like probably around the time where you guys weren't going in so much.
Yeah, and we were getting in guests as well and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just remember I put out that
I do remember
mixtape
that,
and
yep.
he played it. And
because you were playing the dope records. You still do. But I'm saying, like, you know, back then it was like, who is this dude? You know what I mean? He was playing all the records that we were playing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And of course, you hit the radar. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll get him in for sure. You know?
Yeah, and I remember when he played a snippet of it and I didn't hear it, but someone told me. I was so excited. It meant the world to me because I was like, we tune in every fucking week for how.
So this is the same feeling that I got when Madcap gave me a shot back in '93. You know what I mean? Because of that was. I used to tune in. That was the vibe. That was the show. And so when you get a shot at that, you know, your ego gets a boost and you hit the roof and you're like, yeah, let's do this.
The lesson. 927. Oh yeah.